I personally recommend Nikke. It's a pretty great game. Now, I'm aware the fan service is a lot, but honestly speaking, that's the good part. Now, I have obviously a couple favorites, and of course, I do still like some of my flatter characters. But hypothetically speaking, let's say you're somebody who doesn't enjoy a lot of fan service and that's not your forte. I recommend this game strictly for the story. I will say, however, there are two minor issues with the story that I really think should be noted. First and foremost, if I'm going to the recollection section, just strictly to look at the story here, I will say that I believe everything from chapter, I'll even say 5, all the way up to maybe even chapter 13 or 14, the game's English voice acting, it's still good, but it seems like this was made prior to the production of chapters 0 through 4 and chapters 16 onwards. So your squad and your characters, or certain characters, are just named entirely differently, like referred to in English as a different name, or just left blank entirely as though they were supposed to put that in later on. Minor thing, I know, and if you're playing in JP or any other language, you won't really notice it. Please use the bookmark feature. You're gonna need it because your progression within main story is tied to your strength in the overall game. If you can't clear content, you may be stuck on, example, chapter 31 for a few months. I was stuck and previously had gotten stuck at chapter 22, or Mother Whale essentially, and couldn't progress further. Now obviously I'm a lot further, so I had to catch up, but that is something you will need to keep in mind. Please use the bookmark feature. Beyond that, the archives, these are all events. The game does not, as an example, say, hey, between chapters 0 and 1, maybe you should read this event, or anything like that. So you may enter an entire section of the game, as an example, chapters 23 and 25 and 26, and not know certain characters, and then not have any context for the events they're referring to, because they were explained in an event that might have been going on. And whilst the event necessarily isn't significant to that plot point, it provides context, and that's something important to note. So I do recommend you keep in mind this is something that exists, and you may need to comb through it at your own pace, because there are a lot of events you might have missed. But the characters are cute, the designs are nice, the gameplay, for what it's worth, is pretty good. The fan service I like, as you see here. I got the skin for Rouge. I like this skin, despite the big boobs. Surprisingly, I actually prefer to her base design, the face at least as well. But I will say, above all else, why hasn't Epinel gotten a skin? Like, this was a launch character. She's in the update trailer. When you update and download the game, she's in the animation that plays. She has nothing. Why? I love this girl, but like, why isn't she getting a singular thing? The same goes for Celine here. I like Celine, but nothing. Not even a favorite item. I'm confused, guys. Please. She's also in the animated scene in the beginning. This also goes for Noah. Look, I have a type, okay. But like, the bond swords are great for these characters, but they don't get skins. And that's kind of disappointing to me. Obviously, this doesn't apply to everybody, but there are some great characters. Anchor here, she is an alt of a 4-star variation that no one really used. Guillotine, this is an alt of a standard character. So, hey, it's nice. She's very cute. You get upskirt for free. I like it. And I do say I like the gameplay. There is a meta, and power creep does exist to an extent, but I firmly believe it's still a fun experience for me as someone who has pretty comfortably ignored a lot of the stronger units. For my win team, I actually get rid of Asuka and replace her with Epinel, a character that's really pretty bad. So that is something to keep in mind. Right now, today, I could comfortably recommend this game solely for the story. I think the gacha is... look, I'm gonna be honest, I can't make any solid recommendations or opinions, because there are some good characters, but depending on when you show up, you might be at a really inopportune time. You might be at a time like this, wherein there's so many different banners with some really good characters, like Anis, who I don't like the design of, so I'm not pulling for her. And that could be something that you kind of have to deal with. You're in a seasonal banner, and that's bad. You may be in a collab banner, which is also bad. You may be in the Pilgrim banners, which is also bad, because the rates for those banners are pretty much not fair, because you're more dependent on mileage. And so I don't want to say, hey, yeah, the gacha is great, because the gacha overall is not bad. It's like, I'd say something similar to Blue Archive. But the downside is, depending on when you show up, you might get hit with a banner that is really unfavorable. As an example, you could be hit with the Absolutes or the Bunnies. That's Mass and Anchor. That's Vesti, Unwa, and then Emma. And some of these are characters that are dependent on each other. The maids don't work too well without one another. Yes, Mass works, but you need somebody else to occupy that second B2 slot. Yeah, it's a long story. I like the game. Play the game. It's a fun game. It has a good story. I want my wife to get a skin. She's not getting one. I cry. I think the concept of re-rolling for stats in this game is bad. Like, when I say bad, I mean this is a worse experience in farming for artifacts within a Hoyo game. Trying to get good stats But hey, it's something to do. I think the amount of chapters and the progression in campaign is pretty. I think the chapters themselves aren't too bad. I just wish there was some form of auto progression, like, okay, I cleared this stage, please move to the next stage. That way I'm not constantly having to just click here and let the game auto play, because there is auto combat depending on where you are in the game. Depending on your strength level, it may not be good because you may just die, but like it's there. I think the music itself in the game is really nice. Now, for all you Blue Archive players, there's actually a wishlist system here. Now, the wishlist doesn't guarantee that you'll receive, every individual character. Like, yeah, you'll receive the characters in your wishlist, but it might not be like equal division. As you see here, I have no dupes of Adamy, one dupe of Tove, and I still don't have certain other characters. I want Helm a lot, but apparently I'm just getting more and more missless, and even the Pilgrims at this point. I don't have Red Hood. I don't have Dorothy or Modernia. So there is a wish list system, but don't take it as a guarantee that you will get every character on that list, because you get some characters and sometimes the game just says no. But yeah, overall, I just think this game deserves a little bit more appreciation. I think that, yes, it doesn't necessarily have the consistency among characters design as Blue Archive, and not necessarily as focused. And in terms of fan service, yeah, you will have the occasional standout gacha skin or standout skin. And even if looking at non-gacha skins, because this is a gacha skin, even looking at just normal skins within the game, and I'm going to exit here. For our current events, this is a pretty nice skin. But I want to clarify as well that that's not often. You may get a couple of characters here and there that look like that, but depending on your preferences, you may not see that a lot. And it is something to consider. I think that this is still a fun game. I think in some cases, it's even a little bit better than Blue Archive, at least in terms of gameplay and in terms of the wishlist system. I think stories are relatively similar, I'm not going to lie. Blue Archive doesn't have an English voice acting situation, which is, I think that's pretty good, all things considered, because English VA seem to just have an issue with, shutting up. But overall, I recommend this. I think Nikke is a fine game. Now, there is a meta. Yes, there are some strong characters. Do you have to abide by it? No. Can you? Yes. Both things are good. Both things are reasonable. I just would recommend that, depending on your preferences for how you choose to play the game, you don't let the entirety of the meta dictate who you invest into, because if that was the case, I wouldn't have invested in Guillotine or Rapinel or the Plus. And I wouldn't have pulled Asuka only to bench her for a year one standard unit who's, let's be honest, not really that good. I personally play on the global server. But hey, if you do play, who's your favorite character? Who do you like? Who do you wish got more appreciation? You know who I wish got more appreciation. And I'll see you next time.